let's talk about some of the equipment that we're going to need. When we're getting started in beekeeping, often we think there's a lot of things we need. That's kind of true and also not. There's all kinds of equipment in beekeeping, lots and lots of choices that have to be made when you are deciding what kind of equipment it is you want to start with. The most important thing that you're going to need when you're buying equipment is going to be a hive. So we have a couple of different options. The first choice you're going to be making is, what kind of hive do I want to have? It's going to feel like the possibilities are endless. I have two here today that we're going to take a little look at. We're going to do a little bit of comparison between the differences here. But this is not all there is for options. So when we're looking at hives, the first choice we're going to have to make is, what material do I want my hive to be made out of? Here we have wood hives as well as a polystyrene hive. There are advantages and disadvantages to both of these sort of hives, to both materials. So let's talk about this Hive IQ hive first. It's a polystyrene hive. Some of the advantages that come from using polystyrene hives are going to be the insulation that you have in these boxes all of the time. So polystyrene is a natural insulation. It's really fabulous for our climate here in Alberta. It's going to offer those bees a little bit of extra warmth, especially through some of those seasons. You may not have a wrap on your wood hive, and then the bees have to work a little bit harder to maintain some warmth. So polystyrene hives, you're seeing those advantages of a hive like this in the early spring as your colony is building up, as well as later into the fall as your colony is getting ready for winter. The disadvantage to the polystyrene hive is that it is going to be a little bit more costly. The boxes are a little bit less durable than wood. The advantages that outweigh that are going to be extra insulation value. The weight of these boxes is quite a bit less than the wood boxes. So you have a lighter box, no winter wrapping. When you buy these hives, often they come with things like screened bottom boards, built-in entrance reducers, and lots of really good components. So if you're looking for a hive that you're not going to have to be doing a lot of winter wrapping on it, that's going to give your bees some good advantage in the early spring, the late fall, be a little more lightweight, this might be the best option for you. So those are our polystyrene hives. This specific hive is an 8-9 frame hive. And that means that inside each one of these boxes is going to be only 8 or 9 frames. That also can affect the weight. If you're concerned about how much those big, heavy bee boxes weigh, this is a really good option for you. You're going to have a little bit more lightweight and some really great features. So with the wood hives, it's going to be a little bit more cost effective for us. The disadvantage to the wood hives is you're going to have to put a little more time and a little more resources into winterizing them. They do need to be wrapped to give the bees a little bit of an advantage in the winter where they're not having to create so much heat. They're a little bit more durable, but they don't offer that extra insulation. So this is a 10 frame hive. You can often get wood hives also in an 8 frame if you are concerned about the weight. So some of the other equipment that we are going to need to purchase once we've decided what kind of material we want our hive to be built out of, then we have to decide things like, what kind of bottom board am I looking for? How many boxes would I like to purchase, and what kind of frames? So you may have looked around a little bit, you may not have, but if you have started looking at some equipment, you probably already know that the possibilities are endless. So many options and so many things you're going to have to make some choices on. Let's start with talking about our bottom boards. So once you've decided what kind of material you want your hive to be made out of, you need to decide what kind of bottom board you're looking for. There are a few options. You can go with something like a reversible bottom board. This is a solid bottom board. You're going to set it here like this and put your boxes on top. Some other options are going to be this, like a screened bottom board. So your screen bottom board primarily is used for different management techniques. So often people will use screen bottom boards for doing a mite drop test, or just simply being able to clean out debris that's going to fall through that screen onto the backboard there. We're not going to cover a lot of those things in this course today. However, we do talk more in depth about this in our beginner beekeeping class. So we're going to decide when we're buying our equipment, are we wanting something like a screened bottom board, or are we wanting to go with something like this one here, which is our solid bottom board. So once we've started with our base, we have to decide on our boxes. What are we going to do for boxes? Usually when we're buying our equipment, we're going to want to buy enough equipment for our hive to grow into. There is nothing worse than having a hive inspection. You're going out and you're looking at your bees and you realize you need another box. Having an extra box on hand for when your colony is growing is a really good idea. So the first boxes that we need to look at are going to be our brood boxes. So we talked a little earlier about the brood nest. So if we recall, the brood nest is where our bees are making their home. Most often, people are using a deep box for a brood box. So you can see on this hive here that we have 2 deep boxes, and then on the top we have one box that is a little bit more shallow. This is called a medium box, and often people are using those for honey supers. Like so many things in beekeeping, this is not a rule. You can use all medium boxes. You could use all deep boxes. But most commonly, people are using deep boxes for brood, giving those bees a nice big solid space for their nest, for their home, and they're using these smaller, medium-sized boxes for honey. The reason being is that these are going to weigh a lot less. If you get one of these deep boxes filled up with honey, it can weigh up to 100 pounds. So if you're feeling extra strong and you want to have a few less boxes in your shed, you could decide to go with all deep boxes. So there's another choice when you're buying equipment, something you want to put some thought into. How heavy do I want to have to be lifting these boxes at? Do I want to have medium boxes, or do I want to have all deep boxes? When we talk a little bit later about introducing our new bees into our equipment, we're going to talk about how they grow into those 2 boxes. But right now we're talking about equipment we need to purchase, and I always recommend that we're buying 2 boxes for brood. Then we are going to think about how many honey supers we need. And I would recommend that you purchase a minimum of 2 honey supers per colony. The reason being is that if your bees in the first year get into that first super and they build lots of wax and they store lots of honey, you don't want to have to remove it, get the honey off, and put it back on. You need to have a box available and ready so your bees have more space to grow. So having 2 of those boxes is going to allow you to do a hive inspection. If your bees need the space, you can go get them that extra box. So having 2 brood boxes and 2 honey boxes is really a minimum that you should purchase when you're thinking of getting ready for your new colony. So after we have decided what size of box we're going to use, deep and mediums, or all deeps or all mediums, we need to decide on whether or not we're going to use a queen excluder. It's hard to cover all this stuff in a short 101 beekeeping video. So if you want to elaborate on this, taking something like a full beginner beekeeping course is a really good idea. Really pinpoint what kind of management you want to have and then what equipment you need for that. So we're going to touch just really quickly on the queen excluder. So the next item we have here is going to be the queen excluder. So this is going to go after our brood boxes. The purpose of a queen excluder is going to be to keep your queen down in the brood box or in her home and out of your honey supers. So some people choose to use a queen excluder where other beekeepers don't. So you have to decide, do I want a queen excluder? And then what kind of queen excluder do I want? There are choices for that as well. So that's something you're going to have to put a little thought into. Go to your beekeeping store, check out what they have, and make some of those decisions. So this is what the queen excluder looks like to keep our queen in the brood nest. And then we will also need a lid. So here we have an inner cover. The reason that we are needing an inner cover for a hive like this one is that bees make everything sticky. So if you have a lid, this is called a telescopic hive cover. If you have a lid like this and you're putting it right on top of your hives, right on top like this, what's going to happen is your bees are going to glue this lid down to your box, and you are never going to be able to get this lid up to do your inspections. So choosing some kind of inner cover, this one's just a standard inner cover. You can do things like canvas inner covers. Again, there's so many options. This is going to allow your bees to do their thing, make things really sticky, but you're also going to be able to pry this open. So if you are getting your hive tool, you can get it right in there and you can open up your box that way. So this is just the cover that's keeping your lid from sticking down to your hive. So you can choose something like this inner cover, and like I said, canvas inner covers, deep inner covers, there's lots of different options. You just want to have something in between that box and your telescopic hive cover like this one. This one is keeping the weather out like this, okay? And that's going to keep everything together. So we have talked about having a bottom board, some boxes, queen excluders, inner covers, and our outer lids.